Mark Helfrich joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. Coach, thanks for joining me. I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. Our pleasure, Rich. Thanks for having us.
So talk to me about Vernon Adams and where he stands on your depth chart moving forward here, Coach.
Well, he's competing. He's done a really good job. You can tell over the summer he's been working with some of the teammates just on getting the language and the concepts of at this point you're kind of translating what they called black, we call purple, and just that trying to make that translation happen as fast as possible, and then the transition as fast as possible into what we do. He's worked really hard, and he's done a nice job to this point, and we've got a couple more days before we're gonna really sit down and hash this out, and if we do in the next if it hashes itself out in the next few days, and try to point towards game one.
Well, with Jeff Locke, I mean, how do you talk to a kid that's in your program saying, here's another kid from another program that's being brought in to compete? How do you handle that as a head coach?
Well, we're very honest and open about how we do things. Everything is competitive. Royce Freeman, who had a tremendous year for us last year, he's competing his tail off at tailback right now, and everybody's competing. And we don't tell anybody that hey, is it okay if we recruit somebody else? Sure. We tell them the exact opposite: is hey, we're going to try to out recruit you next year in a very positive way. I mean, it's not a threat, but we like to see how they respond to that, and then that's how everybody gets better. That's how they get better. That's how our program hopefully will continue to ascend.
Well, I'm sure you're hearing about the comparisons, and I'm sure Vernon is as well to Russell Wilson. Right. About his style of play, as well as the way that Russell made his way to the NFL, switching schools, et cetera, et cetera. Do you think that that's a fair comparison, Coach?
Well, that we'd sure take it if that's how that's how it turned out. But I think that's tough. It's just like everybody's saying, hey, you need to live up to being Marcus Mariota or living up to be Russell Wilson. Just live up to being the best you, and we can work around that. But yeah, I mean, similar. Obviously, he's a shorter guy. Not necessarily your prototypical NFL style guy, and then certainly being a graduate transfer, obviously those parallels are much more easily drawn.
Mm-hmm. Mark Helfrich, the head coach of Oregon football, joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. And in terms of, as you mentioned, for Vernon needing to transition from to a new situation and verbiage and the way things are done, that was everything that I heard about Marcus Mariota, Coach, during the talent evaluation portion of the NFL calendar, from February all the way up darn near to the moment he was drafted by the Titans. And it looks like he's done very well with that already. Do you take that in a way that they're saying, hey, I don't know if he's going to make this transition from one level to the other. Do you take that in a way as an insult that you're a football coach, right? And I'm wondering how you take it when you hear that sort of talk about a prospect coming from you.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I mean, at some point, yeah, absolutely, it's insulting or whatever the right word is, but also to every single person, and you included, that I talked to in that part, in the build up to the draft, is talk to the guy. Every guy from every quote-unquote system is different. Every guy from a spread, every individual from the same program within that system is different. How they learn, how they can process all those things. And Marcus can do anything. He's one of those guys that, it's just he is absolutely, one of a kind and unique, and all those things that are, thrown out every year. He's that. But Marcus is special, and we're not asking anybody to be Marcus. We're asking him to come in and do everything he can, and how he learns is different, just as Jeff Locke is different, just as all the guys that are trying to replace some of our other guys that were drafted or guys that moved on. They just have to be themselves, and we have to kind of fit in the moving parts.
What are Titans fans going to learn about Mariota pretty quick, in your estimation?
Well, I think unfortunately that they've got a lot of work to do. Obviously, that and Coach Wisenhunt knows that. And talking to those guys leading up to it, it's not a one-man deal. And I think Marcus will be able to execute anything they want. I think that's the key. So if they end up being whatever more of a one back, one tight end, or a multiple team, or whatever they're going to be, he can do it. He knows all those concepts, all those types of protections, routes, defense, all those things he knows, and then all the other moving parts have to again fit together, and that's a tough deal for one guy to solve.
Mark Helfrich, Oregon head coach, joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. How much contact do you have with Chip Kelly at all?
Quite often, yeah, quite often. We mostly text message during the season. In the off season, we'll talk in person or on the phone. But yeah, at this point, it's mostly texts.
And because everybody in the NFL is trying to figure out what makes him tick. Coach.
He's still, he's not insane. He's not a racist. He's not, all these things that are blown up. Quite the opposite in all those things. But no, excited to watch those guys this year. I think they're going to have a great season.
Well, I mean, in terms of that whole racist thing, I mean, the story. I mean, he's brought John Carlos in to talk to the team, right? I mean, like to Oregon when he was in Oregon.
Right.
I mean, that to me was just. Nuts from the very beginning. To be very
absolutely. I think. Or go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, Chip has his guys or not, and there's really, he's the most in that way a very simple guy. If you're either with us or you're not, and from that standpoint, I think players respect that in at the end, and work their tails off to be a part of the solution or not be a part of it. And he leaves there's zero gray area of how that works.
So who is a Chip Kelly guy? Describe it for me then.
Well, an overachiever, team guy, a guy that wants to work every single day to for the betterment of the organization. And obviously at the NFL, there's guys that, that are quote unquote proven. And that's something that I think, we never really talk about, certainly in college, is a guy's never made. You never just sit back and relax, take a deep breath and stop. And so, certainly for an NFL veteran, that's a different way of thinking. And I think he understands that, and he's a smart enough guy to realize that there's going to be some nuances to that. But a guy that just, again, shows up every single day to get better.
Now, Tim Tebow, bringing somebody like him in, there is part of me, Coach, all right, as a member of the NFL media, that he's doing that just to mess with me, just a little bit.
You're a smart man.
That I know he's got a plan. He brings people in for a reason, but I think he's messing with us a little bit, just a little bit, Coach. I
have a lot of respect for Rich Eisen.
Mark Helfrich, Oregon head coach, joining me here on the show. I do have to ask you about your compatriot here in Southern California and Steve Sarkisian, what's going on with him and how he appeared at a booster event this past weekend. What are your thoughts on all of that, Coach?
Well, my thoughts on that are obviously we're trying to handle our own business, and we've got enough things to deal with here, and obviously it's unfortunate, but we're certainly focused on us.
Okay, and in terms of the coach came out and said that there's no longer going to be any alcohol allowed in the coach's area anymore. I mean, is that something that is an outlier, or these things happen where alcohol is available in this certain way?
I don't know that. I think probably in my however many 20 some seasons, I think we don't do that since I've been the head coach, and I think we've done it maybe a couple times in those 20 years. So I don't know what that means, but
sure.
I've certainly heard of that elsewhere. I don't think that's necessarily that much of an outlier.
Mm-hmm. Coach Mark Helfrich, before I let you go, going into a season like this, where you had so much success last year, and you are changing some parts. I mean, Eric Armstead as well. It's not just Mariota who you're replacing. How do you begin to push the rock up the hill with the new guys and get set and try and keep the same standard that you've been enjoying there in Oregon, Coach?
Well, exactly that. I think you have to. It's kind of equal parts. Learn from, dwell on whatever the right thing is, how last season ended, and then flush it. You have to let it go. You can't be dragging that with you, and otherwise it just becomes a dead weight at some point. And you have to learn from all those things and move on. And then that's the exciting part of it. I think some people look at it as, oh my God, what are we going to do about this position or that position? Mm-hmm. At the same time, it's an exciting opportunity for somebody else.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
And you just get in solution mode, and we've got a really young team, in terms of experience, and a lot of guys that are hungry to excel, and you never drop your standards.
Well, just to let you know, I appreciate you coming on. I've really enjoyed watching what you've done up in Oregon, and you said you have respect for me. Does that mean a play could be named after me? Is there some way, shape, or form I could be weaved in there, a face on a play card or something like that?
We could get that done. That's Eisen. We can work that in a little German translation. I think we could get that done.
Iron.
Yeah.
It means iron.
I know. Exactly.
You know what I mean? So,
I do.
And if you need a headshot, for me, I can send that to you.
Will you waive your usual fee, or will this be?
Oh, come on, Coach. Please.
Okay, good.
There's a Rich in your last name. You don't need to even ask. Come on now. We're good. We're good.
Perfect.
Like that. Okay. Thanks for calling in. I appreciate it. Good luck during the season. We'll chat soon.
Okay, Rich.
Hopefully.
Thanks.
That's Mark Helfrich, head coach of Oregon football, joining me here.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.